Have you ever been surrounded by people, in a room full of familiar faces and familiar voices, yet felt a deep and hollow loneliness sitting quietly in the center of your chest, as if no one in that room could truly see you? Have you ever waited for a message that never came, for a call that was never made, for someone to simply notice that you had been quiet for too long and reach out to ask if you were truly all right? Have you ever felt that the world was moving forward with energy and noise and connection, while you stood somewhere just outside of it, watching through glass, present but somehow completely unreachable and unseen? If yes, then this story is for you. Once upon a time, in a quiet village, sitting at the edge of a vast and ancient forest where the mornings were always slow and the evenings always golden, there lived a man named Samuel, a gentle and soft-spoken craftsman who made wooden furniture with careful hands and lived alone in a small house. At the far end of the village road, Samuel was not an unfriendly man. He greeted his neighbors warmly whenever their paths crossed. He helped when help was needed, and he always had a kind word ready for anyone who came to him. But something in the way he moved through his days carried a quiet and persistent sadness that he had long stopped trying to explain even to himself. He had no family left in the village. His parents had passed years ago. His friends from childhood had slowly moved away, or moved on into lives that seemed to have little room for him anymore. And he had watched without complaint as the warmth of his early years gave way to a long and stretching quietness that filled his house every evening like water filling a still and forgotten well. He told himself it did not matter, that he was used to it, that a man could live a full and dignified life in his own company. But deep in the honest hours of the night, he knew that what he felt was not peace and not contentment. It was simply loneliness wearing the clothes of acceptance, because it had been there so long he had forgotten it was not supposed to stay. One cold and overcast afternoon, Samuel walked to the edge of the forest to collect wood, and sat for a moment on a fallen log, looking out at the gray and silent trees with the particular stillness of a man who has grown accustomed to having no one waiting for him at home. And he felt in that moment the full and unguarded weight of how invisible he had become to the world around him. An old woman named Nadia appeared quietly from between the trees. A village elder who was known for walking the forest alone every day regardless of the weather. And she sat beside him without ceremony and looked at the trees with the same calm and gaze she seemed to give everything in her life. After a long silence, Samuel told her simply and without drama that he felt forgotten, that he felt like a candle burning in an empty room, giving light that no one needed and no one came to see. And Nadia listened to every word without rushing him toward comfort or solution. When he finished, she rose quietly, walked a few steps into the trees, and pointed upward to a tall and ancient oak, standing apart from the others, its roots visible above the ground, spreading wide and deep into the earth in every direction. This tree has stood here longer than anyone in the village can remember, she said in a voice as unhurried as the forest itself, and it has never once moved from this place. No one comes to visit it, no one calls its name, but every spring it gives shade to the birds, and every autumn it feeds the ground beneath it. not because anyone is watching, but because that is simply what it is, and what it has always chosen to be. She turned and looked at Samuel with warm and serious eyes. Loneliness is not proof that you are forgotten. It is sometimes simply the season between one kind of connection and the next, and the tree does not stop growing during winter. Simply because the birds have flown south, it deepens its roots in the silence and waits, not passively, but with a quiet and purposeful trust that spring always returns. Samuel looked at that tree for a long time, feeling something loosen very gently inside him. Not disappear, but loosen. The way a tight knot loosens when you stop pulling against it and simply allow it a moment of patience and stillness. He began that week to do something small but deeply important. He started showing up, not waiting to be found, but moving toward the world the way the tree moved toward the light. Quietly and without any guarantee of return, he joined a small gathering at the village hall. He spoke first instead of waiting to be spoken to, and he left his workshop door open in the afternoons. Instead of keeping it closed against the world he had decided no longer cared, and slowly, the way seasons actually change, not in a single dramatic moment, but through countless small and invisible shifts, warmth began to return. A neighbor stopped to talk. A young boy asked to watch him work. An old woman brought bread to his door without a particular reason, and Samuel realized that the world had not forgotten him at all. He had simply stopped making himself findable. So, my friend, if you have been sitting in your own silence feeling invisible and unreached, then carry this with you gently from today. Loneliness is not your permanent address. It is simply a season, and the way through it is not to wait in the dark for someone to bring you light, but to open your door, take one small step toward the world, and trust that the warmth you are looking for is already out there looking for you in return. Deepen your roots in the silence and trust that spring always comes. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to Tales with English, where every story helps you learn English and learn life.